Ready? Thank you very much for coming to the Last of Us presentation. I know Gemma introduced us. We're going to kick it off with a video from Neil Druckmann, our creative director, and Bruce Straley, our game director, who couldn't make it out here, but they wanted to send some words out to everybody who's attending the sessions.
Hey guys, I'm Neil Druckmann, creative director on The Last of Us.
And I'm Bruce Straley, I'm the game director.
We're sorry we couldn't be there. We both really wanted to be there with Troy and Ashley, but we're here back at Naughty Dog trying to finish the game with the rest of the team. The Last of Us is the story of Joel and Ellie, these two kind of very different survivors that are trying to make their way through a United States that has been ravaged by this pandemic, how they learn to trust each other over time, and really wanted to see this evolution of this bond that they form over the entire course of the game.
It's really shown itself to be a game about contrast in every way, from Joel's character being born before this pandemic hit, took out America as we know it, to Ellie being born after. So her viewpoint on the world is very different from Joel's, to our art style and what we're going with, the abandonment and what we know as the familiar, the everyday coffee shop that's now like flooded or overgrown.
Another form of seeing contrast is we really want to show the best and worst of mankind. We want to show different factions, and each faction has their own way of dealing with the infection, the people who are infected, and the lack of supplies. And you're going to see people resort to really dark means of survival through killing and violence, and some people through more, altruistic means of where they're
bonds that are like formed together, families reuniting or forming in this world, and agricultural means of survival.
Trying to bring society back to how we know it today.
Something else we wanted to do with this game was bring something from the genre, these other mediums, comics, novels, and movies like 28 Days Later, Children of Men,
Walking Dead,
the comic, The Road, the novel.
The Last Man.
Yeah, so these are things that Neil and I share a love for, really, and we found a great opportunity when we're kicking around the ideas for a new project at Naughty Dog to bring what we've learned in the Naughty Dog method of true character development and characters that resonate and have depth and conflict with each other, and you feel that tension that Joel and Ellie are feeling, and you feel that pressure being applied to them, and you're with them moment to moment because you're there trying to survive just like they are.
Ultimately, what we want to do is evoke certain emotions from the player, from people playing this game. And the way we do that is by giving characters that have a lot of dimensionality, a lot of depth, so you could buy that they're real people that are forced to make these difficult choices. And part of the process of bringing these characters to life was casting Troy and Ashley. I mean, these two very talented actors that have imbued these characters with so much personality and emotional range. And the chemistry between these two actors, which then translate to the chemistry between these two characters. I mean, the kind of emotional themes we're dealing with this game, like we mentioned before, love, loyalty, sacrifice, they're pretty hard themes, emotions to sell in any medium. And for us, we feel like the only way we could really get into those kinds of emotions is if you buy into what's at stake for these characters. And that's kind of been why we have approached tension and violence on such a realistic level.
That violence is to show you that there are real consequences, and of course this plays into strategies for the player. We're giving a lot more opportunities. It's probably one of the more system-based games that we're making here at Naughty Dog, if ever. So everything has weight, everything has consequence, and then that allows Joel and Ellie to create interesting choices, and that lets you as the player strategize differently throughout.
Ashley is pretty violent. So there's been at least 4 times where she's hit another actor. One time in an audition, she actually almost got in a fight with one of the actors. But the cool thing is because she really throws herself into Ellie. She really has become Ellie. And actually a lot of times when we're thinking about dialogue, it's like listening to Ashley, listening to how she speaks, and almost that gets directly translated to how Ellie speaks. When trying to cast Joel, this pretty tough character, he's gone someplace really dark in his life in order to become a survivor in this world. We went through a really long casting process. We saw dozens of actors, and finally got this headshot of Troy, this tall, handsome, skinny, kind of beautiful guy, and it's like, is this guy going to be Joel? And brought him in, but then we did the audition. He threw himself into the role. He auditioned against Ashley, and we knew that was our Joel.
Well, guys, that's it. Sorry we can't be there in Cologne with you. Hope you're having a great time. Thanks so much for, I don't know, coming and seeing our game and having some interest in it. We really are humbled by that, so thanks.
Yeah, we're kind of bummed we couldn't be there sharing this moment with you guys, but instead we're going to hand it off to Joel and Ellie, or otherwise known as their actors, Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker.
Yay.
Take it easy on them.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Neil. Bye, Bruce. Bye, Neil. Bye, Bruce. There it is. Guten Tag.
So, tell me about some of your past projects. You
Me?
actually come from, you've had a lot of experience in the video game world.
I've been lucky enough to keep working, yeah. And I'm a gamer too, so it's always cool to be a part of something that you're gonna geek out over later. If anyone's played Final Fantasy 13, I played Snowville years. I apologize if you hate the character. I was Vincent Brooks and Catherine.
Yay.
Yay. I'm sorry for the nightmares. Also played Two-Face in Batman Arkham City. Do guns. There's been a lot of, from Call of Duty to a lot of Japanese RPGs to The Last of Us. So it's been fun.
Trying to make it less awkward for you. Ashley has been in the TV show The Killing,
Yay!
The Avengers.
Woo!
You said Fast Food Nation.
Yeah.
What
I
was
hate
it?
talking about myself. So
We'll talk
the
about you.
last panel we did, they were like, "What have you been in?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. Just go
I've been
on
in
the internet."
trouble, I've been in jail,
Yeah.
I've been in...
All those things.
She hasn't been in jail.
Well,
You've been in jail? I've been in jail. It was fun. Here, actually. It was great. Wonderful jail.
it was great.
Well, but this is your first video game job.
Yes, this
So-
is my first video game. So,
What was it like coming on stage and seeing what we do? How's it different?
I am a gamer myself. So sort of getting to go through this whole process has been super cool for me. But in particular, like how he always says, there is the Naughty Dog way to do things. And just being a part of this particular game and sort of being a part of motion capture, it's been really, really awesome. I feel super lucky.
We're lucky to have you.
Yay!
We're lucky to have you, Barney. And we're lucky to have all of you.
We're all lucky.
But you've done a lot of video game work, but Naughty Dog's a little different. Why don't you tell us about what happened when you first showed up to shoot a scene?
I think one of the main differences is that, and right now, because performance capture is getting so prevalent in making video games, because the bar is so high, gamers expect amazing things. And because most games want to have a cinematic experience, a lot of people look to performance capture to really bring life to those characters. But there's still a majority of games that are done just with voice acting. There's just a single actor in a booth with a microphone, and sometimes you get to hear the other character's lines, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get to read the other character's lines, sometimes you don't. And so the main difference with this is that, I may make a choice. If I was by myself, I may make a choice a certain way, but being able to have Ashley to work off of and to really help develop those scenes, you get a completely different performance and a much more organic experience, and that lends itself to more of a cinematic experience, because it's no longer just one actor doing his thing individually, but it's a group of actors, or in this case, the two of us, really developing these characters and understanding the story. So that was the main thing that I was like, this is going to be pretty cool.
Well, we're going to be diving into a cinematic scene and sort of the process behind the motion capture. But why don't you frame the characters for us in broad strokes? Who is Joel? I mean, we'll be able to see it.
The character I play, Joel, is very much of a brutal survivor. He was someone who remembers the world as it was before this horrible pandemic ravaged humanity. And there was a line in the audition, I remember, that said that Joel has few moral lines left to cross. And that's really been the anchor that I've kind of tied myself to, because that is a very defining statement about anybody. Ellie?
Ellie is a 14-year-old girl and has only grown up in the quarantine zone of the city. So that's all she's ever known. Hasn't been anywhere outside of this quarantine zone. And she's an orphan, and was born after this pandemic. So it's the only world she's ever known. So she's a survivor as well, but maybe in a different way. Yeah, so I guess now you'll see.
Yeah, we'll run a cutscene.
And in one thing, this scene you'll see right here, you'll understand how important it is, the relationships that we have outside of each other. With this character named Bill.
Man, that was close. Thanks for the heroics and all. Ellie. Hey, wait, Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill! Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around.
All right.
Get on your knees. Don't test me.
Just take it easy.
Any bites? Anything sprout?
God damn it, I'm clean!
I see so much as a trick. Ow! Son of a bitch! You done? Am I done? You come into my house, you set off all my traps, you damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. He can start by taking these off.
I owe Joel some favors. It's some kind of joke.
I'll cut to the chase. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
Listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you! You handcuffed
I
me!
need you to shut up. All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, Bill, they are.
Well, it don't matter, because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right. I'm gonna do this. There's some gear I'm gonna need.
All right.
It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple of days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good. Follow me. Whole goddamn town's booby trapped. Best stay right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Knock it off.
So one of the first things that you notice in this scene is that from the very beginning, the tension is high, and that runs throughout the entire game. We're obviously running from something, won't give too much away, but in this scene, we went to this town to find a friend of mine named Bill, because Bill's the guy that can get things for you. And Ellie is now with me. Bill knows me, maybe a little bit paranoid, and so I come in, and he immediately attacks her. So you see the fact that there's this relationship between Joel and Ellie, and they trust each other, but just because you may have one relationship with this character, Bill, that Joel does, that can completely change the dynamic when someone like Ellie is involved. And it's all about, we need a car, how simple of a thing that is to us to just have a means of transportation, but how crucial and important it was in this. So I love that scene because it starts off with such tension and has these great moments of levity with Ellie's character being a loudmouth, potty-mouthed kid, and shows just how important it is that these relationships are to surviving in this post-pandemic world.
Well, I mean, you're pointing out there's a lot of subtlety in this. You know, it's a short snippet, but there's a lot of subtlety in terms of how the characters relate to each other. So Neil will, email you the scene.
Mm-hmm.
What happens once he sends you this cutscene, let's say?
Well, it was really interesting because, Neil is pretty much expected now, once he sends out those sides, like you said, once he emails me, about 15 minutes he can expect a call from me, because he's really open, he's really accessible. We can sit down and talk with him about it. So we'll get these pages a few days beforehand, and then let's walk you through a typical day. Neil will say we're going to shoot this scene on August 15th, which will suck because that's tomorrow. I was making that date up. So We'll get those scenes ahead of time, and the first thing that we'll do is Ashley and I will come in, and we'll just do a table read. We'll just talk through the scene, and we'll find out where this specific scene takes place in the overall story, where our characters are coming from, you know, those basic questions, and then we'll just talk out the dialogue.
Who's at a table read, actually? Who shows
It's
up to that?
really, really cool. So first, Neil Druckmann, who's the creative director you saw on the
Left side.
left side.
You're right.
You're right. Yes, this guy, red shirt. Neil Druckmann is there, and then it's really just, you know, typically if it's a scene with Ashley and I, it's going to be Ashley and I and Neil, and so it's kind of an intimate setting to where we can really have the freedom to talk about the scene, talk about the lines, see if there's any questions, any ideas, and we'll spend several hours just doing that, and then we'll take that once we feel comfortable with the words, and we'll get it out onto the stage, which is directly connected to where we are. And we'll spend the entire day just rehearsing 4, maybe 5 scenes. And you know, cinematics in a game are typically 60 to 90 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. And what that does is that rehearsal process allows us the freedom to lock in, you know, the car is going to be here, and there's a door there that we're going to walk through, and we run down the stairs, and we turn around, and there's all of these logistics that we have to work out, so that when we go in the next 2 days to shoot those scenes, that we have the freedom to really explore the tension and the dramatic element and the levity, moments of levity, or any changes that we think really could help sell the impact of those scenes.
Well, Neil mentioned in the video that, you know, he's trying to, Ellie is basically you, he's trying to match your voice. How much collaboration is there? You know, how much does the script change from when you first see it to by the time you end up on stage?
Yeah, you know, Neil is such an incredible writer. So a lot of times when we get the scenes, and to the time that we get to the table reading, when we just sit there and talk it out, there are some things that change. A lot of it, his writing is so good and so natural, so a lot of it is kept, but some things we do have a lot of input of, like, well, what about this? Or I feel like after being with this character for 1.5 years, you have a really good idea of what your character would do. So you're like, well, maybe I feel like I would do this in this situation, or do this in this situation. And he's very open to that, and I think the fact that it's been so collaborative has been, I think it's been really cool.
We've developed these characters together.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that, you know, you've lived with the character for like 1.5 years, and you've got to really know it, but what do you do to prep before you show up on stage to really sort of get into character?
Wow, I think Nishi and I talked about this a lot. There's typical things that as an actor you're supposed to do to prepare, and I think with this specifically, the thing that we can prepare ourselves with the most is to be prepared for anything. If I spend time alone with the scene and the lines, and I rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, and I get it locked in exactly where I want it to be, that can completely change the second that I walk in and hear what Ashley's going to do. So the main thing that we both have tried to do is understand who the characters are, understand the situation that we're in, and then really be ready to roll with the punches and change. And that's where I think we really get this very real, very organic feel to the characters, is because we're truly just listening and really sussing this out. Just like Joel and Ellie in the game are sussing out the situation, because neither of them are prepared for this. There's no way that you could walk out, if tomorrow, or we walk out of this room right now, and the entire city has been decimated. There's nothing that you could have done to prepare yourself for that. And after 5 years, there's still nothing you could prepare if humanity falls apart. So we prepare ourselves by understanding the core of the story and the characters. But if we start rehearsing every beat and making sure that on this line I do this, then we've really done the story and the characters an injustice, and the writing too.
Well, Ashley, you've got a unique challenge because you're playing Ellie, who only knows this post-pandemic world. What's it take to sort of, you know, really get into that mindset?
Yeah, that's definitely been interesting to sort of, you have to sort of imagine what it would be like to live in this world, which is already hard to wrap your mind around. But it's sort of been like, okay, what would it be like if I only had lived in this one city my whole life, and there are so many rules, and sort of this regimented way of living. And it has been a bit of a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge. And yeah, I mean, I'm still working on it, so it changes day by day.
Well, we've been talking about sort of what a typical day looks like. Let's look at what it looks like on stage when you're actually shooting the scene.
Oh, that's cool.
T-pose for me, please. Camera. Rolling. Marker.
Marker?
Floor is yours. Action.
Thanks for the heroics
Any
and all.
Deadwood fans? No? Yeah?
Ellie.
Dan Doherty.
Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill!
Oh my God.
Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around.
All right.
Get on your knees. Don't test me. Just
Take it easy.
you got any bites?
No.
Anything sprouting?
God damn it, I'm clean!
Well, if I see so much as a twitch. Ow!
Stop!
Son of a bitch!
You done?
Am I done? You come into my house, you set off all my traps, you damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
I owe Joel some favors. Is some kind of joke?
I'll cut to the chase. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
You listen to me, you little
No,
shit.
fuck you! You handcuffed
I
me!
need you to shut up. All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, Bill, they are.
Well, it don't matter because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right. If I'm gonna do this, there's some gear I'm gonna need.
All right.
It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple of days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good. Follow me. Whole goddamn town's booby-trapped. Best stay right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Knock it off.
What's cool about seeing this is that you get to kind of see a combination of what ended up in the game and then what ended up, actually being captured all on the stage. And you can see it. We have a little mic right there. So we're actually capturing probably 95% of all of our audio on the day on the stage. So that movement that you get and the way that people sound when they're actually wrestling with the door, fighting with each other, when she's swinging that pipe, you get that actual, you can't really duplicate that in a booth. You can try, but it's nothing like what you can actually capture on the stage. There's one moment that I love. That was Earl Brown from Deadwood, and also played Warren and something about Mary. He's just done a ton of stuff, and he's a brilliant actor. We were lucky to have him. And the day that we shot this, he was getting over a cold. And so he still kind of had like this chest rattle. And it really comes out when he says, are you done? And he says, am I done? You get that cough. It's those flaws, it's those kind of imperfections that's how we talk, that's how we really are. And so I love that we were able to capture that and that we didn't need to go in and redo it again because it was so great on this. And she actually hit him with that pipe. He actually, bam, he got hit. So he's a trooper. It was not an accident.
Totally an accident.
You hated him. Joking. But it's really cool to see, and there was some moments where some of the lines got changed. Like we really played with that last scene when just stay right on my ass, and she says, can't miss it, we really had the flexibility to play with that because we wanted that to be a nice moment of levity that, that kind of showed her character and really does. I love all your lines in that. It's good. Hooray.
Well, in this cutscene, you're actually working with a third actor. I mean, we always talk, you know, we really focus on the story of Joel and Ellie.
Right.
But there are times where they're going to come across other actors. How does it change the dynamic of a performance capture space? You know, both of you, you know your own relationship really well in terms of the characters. So once you introduce a third party, really, you know, sort of how do you bring someone else into the fold and sort of make them feel really natural? I mean, it felt like you guys were so tight in that cutscene, in the performance capture.
It's so interesting because that was one of the, it was early on in the shoot, so I think that was probably maybe the third, fourth session that we had. And Ashley, I almost called you Ellie. Ashley and I were already so tight, and we got along so well. It was interesting to see how that dynamic changed just by adding a third person who was fantastic. And so it does definitely change it because, you know, you discover this is the way that everybody works, and then you throw somebody else into the mix, and it's like watching someone juggle chainsaws, you know, and that's Neil. Neil's just like this, like, toss me the other one, and there we go. And he's always got 4 chainsaws going. He doesn't actually juggle chainsaws. But, so it definitely does, you know, change the dynamic, though, but it's such an interesting, because the process is so proven that you could throw in any different, you know, X factor into that, and it's still going to function just as well. It's just going to function differently. Hi, Arnie.
Hi, Arnie.
Guten Tag. Well, I mean, you mentioned that you're, you know, at that point in this cutscene, in this performance capture, you were both very tight. You sort of knew each other really well, and sort of what your characters were. How did you build up to that relationship? Was it just practice, or, you know, was there, in terms of, you kept going in, were there other things that, you know, did you discuss it outside of these sessions? How did you end up building this really great sort of interplay between both of you?
You know what, I think it definitely, our relationship got stronger over time, but going back to the first time that he auditioned for the part, because I was cast first, and then we went through an audition process to find Joel, and we probably went through, I don't know how many different guys, a lot of different Joels, and he was, I think, one of the last ones that we saw, and when he left, I mean, all of us were like, that's him, because when he came in, there was just, instantly we just had chemistry with each other.
We hugged. I was like, we walked in, I was like, I like you.
Yeah, we were just instantly friends, instantly had a rapport, and we're just, like, we'd known each other for so long. And I think, you know, that's what they always talk about when you see movies and you're like, oh, those people have chemistry together. You know, it's either there or it's not there, and thankfully it was there with us. And over time, with sort of working with these characters and doing the different rehearsals, and I think both of us have sort of, when we're together in real life, we're Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just how it is. I don't know.
Well, I mean, in that time, let's say, Troy, what have you learned about having played Joel over this extended period of time? What have you sort of learned about him as a character?
It's, again, I go back to that first line that, you know, when Joel starts off in this story, that statement that he has few moral lines left to cross is so apparent. And the place that you have to, the things you have to go through to get to that place have to be horribly traumatic. And in that, I think a lot of times when someone is a loner, at first it's not by choice, and then it eventually gets to the part where you isolate yourself from everyone and you don't need anybody. And I think that's where Joel's story really takes off, is the fact that he realizes that he does need Ellie, and that in that there could be some redemption. If anyone saw the trailer that we showed at Gamescom last night, which is here, you see that there's the last line of the trailer where Joel says, Ellie asks him, you know, how did you know about that ambush? And he says, because I've been on both sides. She says, oh. So that shows you the kind of person that Joel is, and it also is very revealing about how intuitive Ellie is, and how in sync they are with each other. And it was very pragmatic. It's like I've done both of it. I've been the guy that's been beaten up, and I've beaten up people, you know. So I think that what I've learned most about Joel is that regardless, and this is really kind of a transcendent truth, no matter how much we want to think that we can do everything fine on our own, at the end of the day, the reality is that everybody needs everybody. We need people in our life to help us through the hardships, and we need people to help celebrate the good times. So, and she's really helped me to define that character as well, just even off stage.
Well, I mean, even in that example, you know, it's Ellie's, I guess, as sheltered as you can be in this post-pandemic world, but she's being exposed to more through her journey with Joel and sort of who Joel is as a person. You know, what have you seen Ellie grow into in the, you know, what you've shot so far?
Yeah, you know, it definitely. Ellie, of course, being 14, she's only known the quarantine zone, and I'm trying not to give spoilers or anything.
I know, I'm doing the same thing.
So I'm like, oh.
Let me just tell you the entire story. This will make this a lot
okay,
easier.
So here it goes. Yeah, so of course when they meet, and obviously you see that Ellie's outside of the quarantine zone and starts to see the world for the first time. There's a sense of wonderment, but also like, oh wow, this is what it's actually like out here. And of course there are moments, you know, where I talk about things with him of like, oh, I hear the world used to be like this or like that, you know, because this is all Ellie's ever known is this world. So that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of what I can talk about.
Well, and I like that dichotomy because Ellie still finds value in nostalgia and sentiment. And I think that Joel is trying to put all of that behind him, and he wants the past to stay buried. And the fact that Ellie keeps bringing, you'll see this throughout the game, Ellie keeps bringing up things of the past. That's for someone who has had a really rough past, that's the last thing you want to do. You just want to be focused on the moment. Yeah, but that's really cool.
Well, Neil mentioned, you know, it is about a lot of juxtaposition with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great example of it. But let's take a look at what each stage of the process is to go from that performance capture footage to the final cutscene.
Oh, this is awesome.
I'll cut to the chase. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
You listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you! You handcuffed
I
him!
need you to shut up. All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, Bill, they are.
So good. I remember the first time that we saw even the first rendering, taking something that like you saw the grayscale version of what we did on motion capture, and being like, oh, it's so cool because you can actually start to see, you know, it's not, you know, Earl and Troy anymore, but it's Bill and Joel, and I was just like going, this is gonna be so cool, and everyone, like the animators, looking at me saying, are you see, this is nothing. And then taking it to that next step, I'm like, oh, there they are. And then you really see the character model, and it's more fleshed out. And it's laughing at me going, are you kidding me? This is not impressive. And I mean, as a gamer, we all know the bar is so high right now. I mean, we have to amaze people constantly just because they expect the unbelievable. They expect amazing. They expect incredible. And so anything that falls short of that is even though it's still ones and zeros that are moving around in space, is underwhelming. And even as a gamer, seeing incredible cutscenes and great graphics, you know, going back from, you know, ColecoVision to PS3, when we see something like this and you see that finished product once the lighting has been added, and you see how all the concept art that the environmental artists and the level designers and everybody have really put, and you see the result of their hard work, the fruition, all that come to fruition. It was absolutely mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And that's when I knew that because it was the first scene that we saw, that's what I knew, that everything that we were doing on stage, all the subtleties, all of the nuances would be captured. And that's incredible. It instills so much confidence in what we do.
Well, we've seen the entire process of a cinematic cutscene, but at Naughty Dog or on The Last of Us, that's not the only way we sort of reveal more about the character relationship. How else?
Well, I think that a common pitfall that people have, that game developers have, is because they want a cinematic experience, they'll use cinematics to tell the narrative. But it becomes disconnected from the rest of the game because there's nothing else that really supports that. And one thing that I love that Naughty Dog does is that there's this through line of the narrative in not only the cinematics, but on also the in-game play. Not only the gameplay, but also what we have in-game cinematics. For people who played Uncharted, there's a lot of stuff that happens in that storyline that's outside of a cutscene when Nate is running around talking to Sully or Elena. And we have the same exact thing, only I think even more embellished with that, because there's so much of that narrative and so much of the character-defining moments that happen while the player is controlling it. So it really connects that that connection that the player has to Joel and to Ellie by actually these dramatic cinematic moments happening in-game.
Well, we actually bring you two together to even record those, right?
That's one thing I love is, even with film or anything else, a lot of times in those in-game moments, you'll isolate your actors again. And so you create this cinematic scene together, but then to recreate that, you separate it, or like in in-game cinematics or whatever. Actually, watch this. This will do way more explanation than I can. But this is actually an ADR session that we did for the E3 trailer, which is not a scripted event. It's actual gameplay, but we actually ADR'd over it so you could have Joel and Ellie communicating throughout that scene, even though it wasn't cinematic.
And again, there's no exact timing for this stuff, so just kind of feel that.
Did we lose him?
Yeah.
But we're not in the clear.
No, not while we're in this city. Come on. God damn it. Get ready!
Troy?
Yes.
So we're going to pick it up from right as you walk through that doorway and you get ambushed by that dude. He's struggling and you're going to miss because of that, and I want you to really like yank him and cinch him back in.
Motherfucker!
Sorry. Hope you're not watching, Mom.
Kind of catch yourself, like you're asking him the question and they're like, oh right, but before it was all kind of crappy and looked like this. Like you're trying to imagine what it was like before.
Okay. You ever stay at a place like this? Before it all went to shit, I mean.
No, a place like this is way out of my league.
Bet it was nice.
That's a scene where Joel and Ellie are exploring a
That
hotel, and so you
sucks.
really get to see that moment where she didn't know what this world must have looked like before, so this dilapidated, completely broken down hotel is amazing still to her.
I hate soggy socks.
That's good.
I really do hate soggy
We want to
socks.
get a couple of
That is scary game they're making. That is scary indeed.
Yes.
Okay, so
So that gives you an idea of the full narrative. The way that we do this is not just on the stage, but it's actually, we can do it in the studio and still creating those moments of tension, that moment of visceral reality through, I love, there's this one time where we just did an entire pass where Joel is kind of stalking through this hall looking for someone, and it was all just breathing. Again, not a scripted event, just gameplay. The player can go whichever way he wants to, but if it's like even in film, if someone were to move that gun fast because they think they see something out of the corner of their eye, you would let that breath out. So being able to put little things like that if you don't really consciously, you're not aware of it, but if you took it away, you would notice something was different. So it's kind of a holistic process as opposed to just doing a cinematic and making it film-like.
I love how in the recording booth you're still doing the action.
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have to, but you're still doing it.
I've thrown my back out before in sessions because I've like been so into it. I'm like, oh God, oh, you know. So.
Have you heard anybody in the recording booth, or only?
I've never heard, no, I've never heard anybody in the recording booth yet. But that was,
Yet.
I feel like, yeah, I think that was one of my first times where I did the ADR, and so the first time that I saw him do it, us together, I was like, oh wow, he's moving around a lot. Maybe I should move around, I don't know.
So we were just doing this.
Yeah, so I was just like doing this, even though it had no purpose to what I was saying.
We're not recording, actually. I know. I know.
Yeah, but I mean, I could tell that was my first time, because I was very like, okay, I'm gonna do this right, and I'm just gonna stay here. Okay. Yeah. I've
I was
learned a
doing on
lot.
stage the last time.
Oh, that's right. You started doing it on stage.
Conversation
Okay,
about us. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end, so we're going to take some questions.
Okay.
We'll also leave some time at the end if you wanted to take some photos as well, so we want to make sure there's some time for that.
I have no photos on me though.
Oh.
Bad joke. Bad joke.
So, are there any questions, Scott?
The relationship between the characters is I felt that it's a sort of a father-daughter
Yes.
relationship, but you guys are not, the age difference is not that big between you two guys. So I wonder if
Oh, you say like in real life?
Yeah, but I mean, you say that you are Joel and Ellie when you're on
Yeah.
in real life, but there's still, she's younger than you and he's older than
Yeah.
you.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So I wonder how you built up that sort of father-daughter thing. If there, maybe that's just something that I've read into it, but
No. I think you're exactly right. I think that there is a line between reality and make believe that we cross, but with every scene that we do, I feel like there's less of me and more of Joel in those scenes, you know? So it's not like, oh, that's right, I have to remember she's 14 years old, so, and I'm 40, you know, so I have to play that, which I'm actually closer to Joel's age than she is to Ellie's.
We don't talk about that.
Yes.
We don't talk about ages.
I play ages 18 to 20. No. But for you, that's kind of, it's different because you don't really.
Yeah, that is a very interesting question.
It's past your bedtime, by the way.
Yeah, I got a little bit. Drink my milk. Yeah, I guess it's not something that we're thinking about.
Yeah.
But I definitely, I think because he's done so many video games, there's definitely that feeling for me when we're working where I'm like, okay, what do I do? You know, like there's, I'm already looking up to him already, so that's already there.
So taller.
And he's taller than me, so there's that.
Bad joke again. There's one person in the back of the room that's laughing, and I love you, by the way.
But yeah, I think it's, yeah, I don't know. And plus I don't think Ellie is the normal 14-year-old
True.
now anyway.
Very true. But I'm glad you picked up on it. That's
Yeah.
we're doing our job.
Yeah.
Did you film it sort of more, or do the performance captures sort of more or less sequentially? Because that part, that never happens in films, does it? It's sort of starting at the beginning and going towards the end, or was it all jumbled up?
Yeah, I mean,
All jumbled up.
you would think that a lot of times we're like, hey, well, let's just shoot the game in order. But of course, just like the reason why you don't do it in film is because you either have location restrictions or you have actors, you know, you only have 2 weeks with these actors or whatever, so you shoot all of their stuff out. We have the same restrictions a lot of times with games because we're still designing levels. We want to make sure that we're not. A lot of people just go, we'll capture this scene. Oh wait, that scene is actually not changed. Okay, we'll go back and recapture it. So it's to make sure that we don't, you know, have to double up on the work that we're doing. We're waiting until those scenes are written and they're written the way that they're supposed to be before we actually shoot. So it actually, yeah, we'll shoot a little bit out of order. But again, Neil and Bruce have been really good about explaining the overall story. So we're kind of able to, you know, see four-dimensionally and drop in the different parts of the storyline.
Yeah, you know if there's one ending or several endings as well.
Is there? No, there's definitely an ending to the game. That would have been a horrible spoiler, wouldn't that have been?
I would have come over the table.
Yeah.
The ending is, you had a question as well, yeah?
It seems that performance capture helps you visualize your characters better. So are you conscious of the fact that you have the opportunity to create more diverse characters, less stereotypical ones?
Absolutely. A great question. I think that the world is ready for the I'm a huge Gears of War fan. I love Gears of War. I think that Marcus Phoenix is an awesome character. But I think that gamers today are looking for a different kind of hero. Not taking anything away from Marcus Phoenix or John DiMaggio, because bow down, I love John. But just as far as the type of hero or anti-hero, even the model of the anti-hero has changed in the last 5 years. The thing about Joel that I love is he is a guy. He's not a soldier, he's not a doctor, he's not anything that we've seen in games before. He's just a dude that has been in the shit for 20 years. And what that naturally does to a human being is enough. We don't have to dress it up and call it anything else. So yeah, I think that with performance capture and with a great character model to begin with, that opens up the doors to all sorts of diversity and to really explore how deep that character can go.
Got time for one more question?
About facial animation, I mean, we've seen how they capture your voice and your movement, your body, but for what we've seen in that video with different layers coming out of the video, the facial animation is pretty handmade, if you allow me to say. You don't have to deal with these tons of pins in your face like we've seen in other games. So I think it's both the liberation for the actor, but an extra work for developers.
Right, I mean, I've never had to deal with a facial capture like you have, but it's definitely the animators at Naughty Dog are incredible, and yeah, but you've had that. I don't know.
Again, I think everyone's trying to find the magic bullet of how to do performance capture, period. And with facial, you can do the dots, you can do the head-mounted camera rigs. At the end of the day, it's always going to be tweaked. We know that. Naughty Dog made the decision that they were going to do it this way because, again, when you go facial, it's just one more layer of things to get over. If you have the camera rigs, it's another logistics thing we have to work around. So what Naughty Dog wanted, what was paramount to them was performance. So either way the work is done. Either it's done on the front end or it's done on the back end. And Naughty Dog made the decision to trust their animators. And they will shoot 3 to 4 camera setups so that we're capturing video reference on the day. And there's one guy that goes through frame by frame. And Neil will say, you see how Ellie raised her eyebrow? Make sure that, or Ashley did that when we shot, make sure Ellie does that too. And they apply all of those subtle nuances and idiosyncrasies to the model. And the result speaks for itself. It's really, really good. But that was definitely a decision that Naughty Dog made to go that way. I think it's a good one.
Well, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you
We have
guys
some
very
time
much.
if you want to.